Well, good evening, Ryan. Welcome to Therapy for Dad's podcast. How are you doing this tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for joining me, man. So, what we tend to do and how I've started every show is I tend to tell the listeners where the guests are calling in from or Zencastering in from. So, where are you kind of calling
I'm in
in from?
San Diego. Geographically,
Okay.
is that what we're trying to say?
Yeah. Where are you calling? Yeah.
Geography.
Yeah. Geography. That's a good one.
Yeah. I'm in San Diego, Southern California. So yeah.
Okay. So that's good. We're in the same time zone, which is nice. We don't have
It's
to
convenient.
do different hours. And if most people have been listening, I'm usually either recording super early in the morning at 5 to pre-kids before they wake up because I'm talking to someone on the East Coast or in the UK, or I'm doing super, super late night for people on weird time zones. So it's good to have someone who's also actually really close to home. So again, those of you who are maybe tuning in for this first episode, I'm actually close to Ryan. I live in South Orange County. I'm about an hour or so away from where he is in San Diego County. So we're relatively
Nice and
close.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually used to live in San Diego.
Oh, really?
In Ocean Beach, kind of Point Loma area off Nimitz. I used to live there.
I'm thinking about going down there tomorrow, get a hamburger.
Oh, at Hodad's?
Yeah.
Or somewhere else?
No, I'm going to Hodad's. If I go down there, that's where I go. It's half day tomorrow for my kids. So for one of my kids. So I think we might go do that.
So tell us, how many kids you got? Who's Ryan?
Hey everyone, I'm Ryan. I'm a full-time YouTuber and podcaster. I do guitar content on the internet, and somehow I've turned it into a job. And I'm also a father of two. I've got a daughter who's about to be 3 this Saturday, and a son who turned 7 back in July. So I've got a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old.
July what?
July 31st.
I got July 4th and July 21st. Yeah.
A double July, huh?
Yeah, we planned that one apparently. So we have a theme of when things happen apparently.
My brother was dropping some theory he had on me about why, birth dates tend to cluster together in the summer and some sort of thing with biology and like people like snuggling in the winter and stuff like that. I was like, dude, everyone has things figured out now. And so many parents just want to throw summer birthdays for their kids. That's literally why our firstborn has a summer birthday, because we planned it that way.
Well, there you go. There you go. Yeah.
I'm sure not everyone had that plan, but we're like, we want a summer birthday. We're in Southern California. We want to go to beaches and pools and stuff like that for a birthday party. So,
hey man, if you can plan it, that's the time to plan. Yeah. But there are drawbacks, right?
Of course. I mean,
there's drawbacks to summer birthdays, especially for the at least from what my wife has told me. I don't know if your wife did this or not, but breastfeeding during the peak of summer is hot. So
I didn't try it, but I've heard.
I've heard. Yeah,
having a newborn in summer, like peak of the heat, is miserable.
Yeah,
whether you're breastfeeding or just holding the baby, trying to sleep. A lot of older Southern California homes don't have central air. Like, so we don't have central air in our home. But we have like all these portable units around the house and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And like they take a dent out, but man, it gets those hot months. You've got a little heat rock laying on top of you and you can't move, because if you move, then they wake up, sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're sleep deprived and all that. Like it's rough.
Yeah, that's right. I forget. That's one thing I do not miss about San Diego is, most places didn't have central air. So which is most of the year is fine. For those who don't know, I mean, San Diego, pretty horrible weather in San Diego.
Oh, it's just awful, miserable.
Yeah, it's real
really
bad. Yeah, I mean,
no, there's about 2 months of the year that you need air conditioning, and about 2 months of the year that you need heating. And
and the rest of the time, it's perfect.
Yeah. It's so pleasant. It's miserable. Can we get a little bit of weather here? Can we get a break?
I know.
72 and sunny.
I know. We're expecting our third this Christmas time. So
congratulations.
My wife is actually excited. Thank you. And she's excited for not having a hot, sweaty summer.
Yeah.
Like birth, newborn, breast, like the whole thing. Because when you go out, it's like hot and you can't get comfortable, and it's like everything's just hot and sweaty. And
you got to,
like you said, nighttime.
She'll get to bundle up with a newborn, be a more pleasant experience. I mean, you're still going to have, a 6-month-old in summer, which will have its own challenges and stuff.
It will have its own, but yeah, she's definitely looking forward to the bundling up with the newborn and being cozy versus being we're just sweaty and hot. So
and summer comes and you get that ripe diaper pail thing going on.
Yeah, we don't use a diaper genie where it's a waste. So we just have a little bucket, actually it's an old flowering pot.
Yeah,
that's just right outside. It just stacks up until it's full, and then trash. And you're right, summer gets a little steamy, and it's just the reality.
Right, totally.
We have one in diapers, so thankfully the other one is not. So so that's Ryan. So he's got 2 kids. He's in San Diego, full-time podcaster, and you run a show. Yes, what's your show called?
Oh, it's called 60 Cycle Hum. So that's the name of the podcast and the YouTube channel and every other social media account that you can find. That's what it's under.
Yeah. And it's actually how we stumbled upon each other. I was actually one of probably thousands of early listeners
you were
for the 60 Cycle Hum.
You were hitting us up back in 2014. You were probably in the first couple hundred. Like we probably didn't have 1,000 yet.
Yeah, you're right. I think I was in the first couple hundred. I remember because I early on, and I don't think you guys do it anymore, or as much. But early on, we would send songs in. And
we still do that. Yeah,
you still do that. Okay, yeah, we'd send in songs. It was 2014, and I actually mailed you guys a couple drinks, and you got.
I remember that. I remember you might have been
one
of the first one to send us beers, and it was a big deal for us.
It was fun. So 2014, when we were just talking in the green room about it, that I didn't realize it's been that long. It's like, wow, it's been 7 years, and you've been running the podcast for almost 8. You said, right?
Yeah, we're coming up on 400 episodes, so 52 episodes a year. That's the math.
That's an accomplishment. How's that feel for you?
I mean, the podcast is a bunch of fun, and dad talk. It's honestly been really amazing to have a weekly commitment to sit and talk with a friend and have that social interaction. Especially considering I am self-employed, so I'm at home like all day, every day, and to be able to have that kind of adult discussion, even if it's like a thinly veiled, like guitar podcast sort of thing, and we're really only talking about guitar stuff. But it's that like in itself has been really great for me, and I noticed that a lot. Like I kind of joke that you get in your middle ages, you have a kid or two, you start a podcast because that's the only way you're going to get around to talking to, other people that would be in your kind of like circle of interests and like what would normally be your social circle. Like it's just a natural thing that we get pulled into now, and it works. Like I started the podcast right before my first kid was born, right before my son was born. So I was right there in that like sweet transition point,
It's funny. I mean, you predicted mine. I mean, apparently that's what I did. I didn't even know I was doing that. I didn't even know I was following that prediction of have kids and then you start a podcast to talk with other, in my case, other dads.
Yeah.
And then the thing I care about, mental health and parenting and dad life and fatherhood. I'm like, there you go. And I get to have conversations. It's like, yeah, you're right. It's actually been kind of fun.
Because it's honestly like, I mean, that's a huge struggle when you have kids, is getting any time to have adult conversations anymore. Like it all just goes out the window, like all day long. It's like, Daddy, I need this, I need that. Daddy, what about this? What about that? And it's like, you love all that, but man, sometimes you need to talk to someone that's not a kid.
Well, and those who haven't seen the show, it's a really fun show. Those who like guitars, I mean, 60 Cycle Hum, those guitar enthusiasts will know what that is. For those that don't, you'll have no idea what that means other than a bunch of letters and numbers, but it's fun. It's a great show. Those who are listening who love music gear and just to see stuff reviewed and fun laughs about weird, just ads about just really weird Craigslist and other fun ads that are posted. It's a great show. So, I recommend listening to it, and I'll link it, guys, for everyone in this show to click on and to follow and to give them your support. And you guys really just have fun. I mean, I watch it. You guys get to be really big kids of like, hey, we get to play new gear all the time. It's like, it's a musician's dream essentially of like, we just get to play with stuff and make sounds, which is a lot of fun, which is why I enjoy watching it.
The thing I always say is that 13-year-old Ryan would be very impressed right now. Adult Ryan is just praying that it keeps paying the bills, Like it's like pedals come in, guitars come in, like, oh, that's cool. I hope this pays some bills.
Yeah. It's the responsibility side of, okay, this has to work, and this is just the gleeful excitement of that young boy of like, yes, something else new and shiny and exciting and fun.
Yeah.
So you get that nice dichotomy, right?
It is pretty great having a job that for the most part I get to enjoy and is around stuff that I enjoy. There's trade-offs to everything, but there's certainly a lot worse things I could be doing. And I didn't think, 7-8 years ago when we started doing the podcast, I didn't think I'd end up where I am now. Like I thought it was a side hustle,
Yeah, and look at that. It's a full-time gig. What a fun journey that you probably didn't, like you said, did not anticipate or expect to be here 7-8 years ago. That side hustle now turned full-time gig, and that's awesome. I mean, right? You get to passion, fun, get to talk to dads, your best, your friend, and you get to have that adult time and kid time all in the one. So with that transition of, you said this journey of full-time gig of a podcast / YouTuber, which is interesting, being a full-time YouTuber, right? Is it something you probably would ever told your parents? I'm a full-time YouTuber, Mom.
I feel a little bit, I feel like it's a little bit, this is, no dig at you because you're podcasting right now, but I feel like it's a little bit more like socially acceptable to say that you're a YouTuber than a podcaster. Like you say you're a podcaster and people are like, oh, okay. Like, how does that work? But they have this thing in their mind, like, oh, YouTuber, those people make money. I don't make the kind of money that people associate with, big YouTubers, but I definitely make most of my money from YouTube versus podcasting. So like when my son goes to school, I'd prefer him to say, "Oh, my dad's a YouTuber," than a podcaster.
Not a podcaster. Yeah, it's true. Well, and that's why I'm doing both, just for that exact reason. Right. People think YouTube. I'm doing, and mine's a video podcast. To be even cooler.
Oh, so cool.
Oh, it's really, my cool factor has gone up quite a bit.
All this stuff is so nerdy. Like doing any of this stuff for any reason is so nerdy. You get like all these cameras and all the statistics and everything and the numbers.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, oh my gosh, it's just another nerdy hobby that we all get into. It's like model trains and
totally,
all that.
You're
stuff.
Right. It's a total dad. Yeah, it's a total dad like rite of passage. I feel like it's just totally. Nerdy hobby. It's gadgets, it's gizmos, it's lights that you don't see, and all these things. It's fun.
Might as well be like collecting stamps or something.
Well, that's the next phase, is coins and stamps. So and rocks. I collect rocks, but that's actually primarily because my boys collect rocks, and we have a random rocks in our house. Just placed everywhere.
Right.
In fact, there's a few right over there on the counter. In his room, we have a little thing, and he collects these little treasures. It's like, it could be a leaf, a pebble, a stick. We just kind of put it in it and becomes this plethora of just random things he's found on the side of the street. But he loves it. So, hey, it's good. That's his hobby. Random things off the ground. And this is mine. So with the transition of, hey, you started something 7-8 years ago, didn't think the journey would take you to where you are today. And kind of on that theme, can you tell us a bit about your dad journey?
A big part of my life that's different from, I think, a lot of, working dads is that I'm fully self-employed. I work at home all day long. And so I've been that way for 13, 14 years now, self-employed. Something like that, maybe 15. I can't quite remember anymore. But I was already pretty used to being self-employed. And then a kid gets thrown into the mix. And that, introduces a whole host of challenges. Like I used to be a graphic designer, being self-employed, but moving into recording audio and recording video and working in your home when there's a kid around, like it just becomes a huge challenge as far as like keeping concentration and getting clean audio and things like that, and like having those expectations with your family that like, hey, I need you guys to be quiet for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that, and just how taxing that can be to request that from young children, and not to mention my wife and all that. But just like, I think that one of the biggest struggles about that is if I'm working and I have to do work, like it sounds like a fun job, but it is a job. And there's tasks I have to complete to get the bills paid. It's tough to work at home and, hear your kids having a tough time, or hear that, my wife is having a tough time with the kids. and be like, I can't really walk away from what I'm doing right now. And I know they're going to survive. And sometimes I do take a break and come check on things. But then, my wife is like, you didn't need to do that. And the whole anxiety around that dynamic is really interesting and can be really challenging because, I don't have calm kids. I don't have I don't have like Zen kids. Like I was a very calm kid that would sit and very quietly play with my toys. And neither of my kids are that. Like they want 100% attention all day long. And so it's a bit of a challenge in that direction,
So that was like you said, full-time, self-employed, 15 years before kids. And then you get a kid, throw a kid into the mix.
There's all sorts of challenges, not even professionally, like, just, like there's enough that you get thrown at you when you become a parent for the first time or the second time, the third time, and so on and so on. It's a score multiplier every single time. The thing I always say is it doesn't get easier. It just gets different.
I would agree with that. Doesn't get, we have two with again, a third coming, and definitely 1 to 2 definitely wasn't easier.
No, it's not like a practice thing where it's like, oh, we practiced with 1, now we're ready for 2. No, number 2 is going to be totally different. And you're still raising the first one. So
that doesn't stop. That does not stop. Yeah,
no,
not at all. And so I guess with that that first difficulty was that it sounds like letting go of the kind of anxiety, worry, or stress about just releasing the control of, my wife's got it handled and I need to let that go and focus on my contribution in this moment, which is, hey, I'm providing for the family. This is my job. Yes, I'm having fun, but this is still a job. Like you said, it's still a job. I still have to make things, still have to produce, still have to be effective and, efficient and on task. Right.
Right. I mean, time management is just a huge issue. Like if, to pull back the curtain a little bit for a YouTube channel my size to be profitable, like I'm not talking about wildly profitable, but to, keep the boat floating, like I have to publish like 2 or 3, sometimes 4 videos a week to keep the ball rolling. And anyone who's done any sort of video work, editing, shooting or whatever, that's like breakneck. Like that's
a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And so like, the cycle that I go through to get work done, like is like the time management is really key to make this work. And I feel like I do a pretty decent job of keeping it to a 9 to 5 sort of gig, but sometimes stuff bleeds over the edges and whatnot. But for the most part, like, the time management during the workday is so key to make sure that I'm not working evenings and I'm not working weekends and stuff like that to make it all work.
And with your spouse, with your wife, was there any difficulty with that transition of being from home? Like it sounds like she was kind of aware. It sounds like she was.
Well, she was self-employed too.
Okay.
So I transitioned for her going from being a self-employed graphic designer with clients and stuff like that to basically just the frustration of having to walk away from all that. Like she never was making as much money as me. So it was fairly obvious which one of us was going to continue working. So I think there's a lot of frustration there. And then, as our firstborn got older, she was able to start transitioning to picking up clients again. And then we had another one. So that was all out the window. So it's like she built her business twice and twice watched it kind of fizzle out, which is, it's pretty heartbreaking. It's depressing to build a business and then have it just have to go on the back burner for a couple of years twice.
It's a lot of work. Twice.
It is a lot of work twice. Yeah.
It's a lot of effort. And for anything, I mean, any business, it takes time.
Yeah.
A lot of time that I feel like you don't get back, especially early on, when you're building something. There's a lot of time that goes in that you're not billing for. And you spoke to, the work you're doing 3-4 videos a week and you're right. Yeah, it does. I don't do that. I do 1 or 2.
Right.
At most 2 a week, at most 2. And just the editing in one video by itself it's a lot of work. It's way more hours to make like a 5-minute video. It's like hours for like, you think, oh, it's a 5-minute video. It's like, oh, 5 minutes. That's hours of editing,
people don't realize
a 5-minute clip.
Like how much work can go into a 1-minute video. Like I do some commercial video on the side with a friend of mine. And, we basically price quote based on the idea that a minute of video edited takes an hour to edit, like just to edit, like not to shoot it, not to do the rest of it. If you've got a minute of video that took an hour to edit and it probably took a half a day to shoot it, stuff like the time that it takes to produce video is bonkers. And the fact that I'm essentially probably publishing 3 or 4 hours of content a week is like staggering, and a
Yeah,
lot of people don't realize what goes into that.
And do you do all the editing like by
Yeah,
yourself, or
I do everything.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you don't pay someone to do that because that is I heard people do that. They they get big enough, they start paying someone to edit for them, but
They
that's
do.
also another cost. But
I know there are channels doing guitar YouTube that are doing that, but like I have like my own anxiety about handing over my own files, and I have a really like quick turnaround time too. Like
yeah,
I've become very efficient at it all, and I also
sure,
when I'm filming, I know when I just laid down a stinky riff, and I'm like, I know exactly where to cut that out, and someone else would have to learn exactly what I like and don't like in my own playing and everything, and
yeah.
it would be a lot for me to hand over the 2 hours that I film to someone and be like, hey, cut this down to 40 minutes. and know the beats and
True.
the way I like things done.
Yeah, because I guess in your case, it's not just someone doing video editing. They have to really understand music and
Right.
it's a whole other language essentially.
And they have to
It's not
understand
just
like
video.
what I'm trying to communicate and demonstrate with the products that I'm covering and stuff like that, because I
Right.
essentially do demos or reviews, however you define it. Like I'm sent products and I charge a fee to
Review
demonstrate
'em.
them.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
Shoot, I've watched quite a few of yours to get some of my stuff reviewed. I mean, it's helpful. It's like, yeah, I don't like that, or dude,
Yeah.
I love that. And not that I'm buying a lot of gear anymore because now my money's going into this.
Oh yeah, totally.
And
Well, you
I
have
don't
a
play.
microphone, you have headphones on.
I
If
got some stuff from music. I was already blessed with some previous musical equipment that I use this on a regular basis outside of here for vocals and stuff. And
Mhm.
these I've used for audio editing as well, but some other stuff I don't buy as many shiny pedals like I used to,
Sure.
but I don't play like I used to either. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you can relate. I don't play as much in the electric world after having kids and stuff that I used to back in the day, but used to play a lot more.
The only reason I
Um,
am able to play guitar is because I turned it into my job,
which is, that's a good transition.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
good transition. So I'm wondering what's another, like, think of your dad journey. You talked a bit about the transition from just working from home and some of the anxieties about that and kind of letting go and relinquishing control to hearing what's going on. And I'm sure even probably with COVID in this past 2 years almost, that a lot of dads have probably faced
Oof.
of now they're at home and dealing with just,
Yeah.
they're in their house and they don't have that transition from, driving into work, and they could hear their kids and the stress of that. And
Yeah, a lot of people have found out how much they actually like their family in the past year and a half or so,
yeah.
I've been on the equivalent of COVID quarantine for for like over a decade now. So, it was
Yeah, you've been practicing.
it was a easy transition for me.
Yeah.
The bummer for me was that my 7-year-old, now he's 7 years now, but he missed first grade essentially, and
Oh,
we were
wow.
starting to get time back. He went to kindergarten, and then first
Mm,
grade came and went, and he was home the entire time. And it was like,
wow.
man, I almost had quiet in the house for half the day. Like I almost had it.
Yeah.
It would have been so great for me because when he's
Mhm.
gone, then our 2-year-old, like, she doesn't have anyone to scream and fight with anymore. So it gets really quiet here when he's gone.
Yeah, yeah. So
So
you could tell a difference. You could tell a difference.
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But he's starting to go back to school now.
Okay.
We had an in-home COVID scare 2 days into his first week of second grade.
Oh,
And
no.
so then we had to have him out for like
Oh,
15
no.
days again.
Oh, poor
And
guy.
and so he just started again this week. And
Okay.
we're dealing with all the challenges that come with that
Mm.
and managing homework and schedules
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff.
So we're on that topic. I mean, what was it like to have essentially a first grader at home during COVID? Like, what was that? Was that a difficulty? Was that
Man.
weird? Did you find it easy? Like, what was the challenges there that you faced?
Well, there was a whole other like level of worries and anxieties and stuff like that. The thing that I tell new dads is that you're not prepared for how much you're going to worry about stuff
Mm.
that you never would have worried about. Like when my son was first born, like I lost sleep at night, just like laying there watching him sleep, and like worried that he would stop breathing when he was fine. He was totally healthy, 100% healthy.
Yeah.
But it's just like
Totally.
all of a sudden you have this worry about everything having to do with your kids. And so like when he was home for first grade, it's like, yeah, there's all the practical stuff like, oh, the house isn't going to be as quiet for half the day. But then you have this added, like, how is, this year with, very challenging school situation going to affect him for the rest of his life? Are we doing enough? Like, do I need to start working half days myself to be a teacher? With his personality, we knew that he wasn't going to be able to do the distance learning laptop thing. We were just like, we're going to get books and try to do it ourselves. And we tried, and there was like a lot of really challenging moments where we're like, are we actually teaching him anything? Is he actually learning anything? Or we were flirting around with like the no schooling thing, like mixed with like a homeschooling vibe. Like I was homeschooled junior high through high school, and I watched my siblings be homeschooled young, so I knew what that was all about. But then like it's different when I'm working, and my wife didn't grow up in that, so she didn't have any frame of reference for how that stuff works, and she's finding out stuff that I've never heard on her own. It's like there was this whole dynamic that was it was scary in a way, because you're worried as a parent. You're worried that this year without school is going to mean that he's going to have to repeat first grade. Who knows? Maybe kindergarten or something like that. You have all these big thoughts. Like, is he going to have to learn colors again? But he's been doing fine. Everything it usually turns out fine, unless you have a tragedy in your life or something like that. Most of this stuff that you worry about as a parent just works out, because that's just the way things work. And like everyone else had a similar year. Everyone's kids are going back to school about the same level, and it just means that second grade is the new first grade. I don't know. I'm not sure how it's all going to work.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my kids are not old enough. They're 4 and 2, so they haven't done school yet. But I was always thinking, man, I can't imagine. When you become a parent, you just realize how much work goes into it.
Yeah.
You could think about it. You see people with kids before, but you don't. It's hard to grasp. You fully have a kid. You're like, oh, this actually it does. Like it's going to take logically a lot of work. Like it's going to take work, but then when you're in it, it's a whole different.
Yeah, it takes over your entire life. Like
it really does.
Every moment of the day is for my kids at this point, where it used to be like, oh, I got to work to pay these couple bills, and then I'm gonna chill out. I'm gonna go to the beach. I'm gonna go out with friends, and we'll go get some drinks or something like that. Let's go try that new restaurant, and that's like casual stuff that you do. So it's like, I don't feel like sitting around the house tonight. All that's gone once you have a kid. It's just like your entire life changes. Like I tell people, don't have a kid unless you really, really want a kid, because if you like your life right now and you think you'll miss it, like it doesn't come back. Like that part is over.
I mean, I think it could, but I would think to the detriment of your children.
Oh, sure.
Like if you could, but something would suffer. You'd sacrifice something else. And yeah, I definitely with our kids, early on they were not great sleepers. They were not the
oh man.
I don't know I'm not sure how yours was, but mine were not the sleeping 16, 17 hours a day as a newborn. Ours were whatever the minimum was.
Right.
That's what they were sleeping. Whatever that, super minimum. And their naps were like half hour. It was just like
right. So you're always on. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, yeah. And they had really bad colic too.
Oh man.
So like the first 6 months was like
oh hell.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm looking at it right now. My island, those who don't see this, but my island's right over there, and then we would just with our oldest, who's 4 now, just pace.
Yeah,
because the only thing that would calm them down was movement, and so we would get them and take shifts, walking around our island for at 2 a.m. for like an hour, and then he'd sleep, and because we'd put him down in that position, whatever reason, like it would just flare up, and oh my goodness, like I've never been so tired in my entire life. But then I'd have these moments with him. He'd smile and engage, and it was just like it's a weird feeling. It's like literally the hardest thing, the most exhausting thing, and at the same time, some of the most amazing moments. And I wouldn't change it. And it's like there's, they smile, they hug you. It just those moments, everything melts away. It's just like, oh my gosh, yeah, this is why. It's interesting. It really is. It's an interesting phenomenon.
Sleep issues are probably like my like the number one like personal mental health challenge, physical health challenge I've had as a parent. Like I already had sleep issues before having kids. I've always been a bit of an insomniac. I'd never been one of those people who stays up for days, but it's not uncommon for me to just not be able to sleep till 2 or 3 or 4 in the morning. And when you throw kids into the mix and you can't sleep when there's an opportunity to sleep, and they're going to wake up at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., no matter what, like things got weird for me. Like I could basically put it on the calendar and be like, all right, in about a month, I'm going to have a major mental breakdown and I'm probably going to cry for about half a day. And then I'll sleep for about 2 days. I'll finally be able to sleep. And then I'll start the cycle of insomnia again that will lead to that point again. And I think there was like a year or two with my firstborn where I was stuck in this cycle of just like catching up on sleep and then degrading over a month and having a complete mental breakdown, like in the middle of the night, just like sobbing and crying. It's like, because it's like when you get in that mental state, it's like everything feels like it's an emergency. Everything feels like some kind of personal attack. But once you get like 2 or 3 under your belt of those like total breakdowns, you realize like, no, this is because I'm tired and like I'm feeling all this chaos in me and all this like angst, but it's because I'm tired. Like there's not actually anything that I'm upset about. Like it's just like my body is falling apart because I'm running on 3 and 4 hours of sleep a night. And it was really rough, really, really rough. Yeah, with the firstborn.
I don't think nothing prepared me for that.
Yeah, nothing can. Like it's torture.
It literally, and I didn't have, which I want to hear a little bit more about that, but I don't have insomnia problems. So that's a whole other experience that I can't relate to. And I can't even imagine, I can't imagine that because I've always been pretty good. I'll have my random nights where I just, freaking wired.
Sure.
But most times I'm pretty good about, I could fall asleep. I'm able to kind of, do some deep breathing meditation. I could zonk out pretty quick.
Yeah. I could bet money that like most nights I'm gonna have trouble. Like probably 75% of nights, 3 out of 4, I'm gonna have trouble falling asleep when I'd like to fall asleep. Like I can lay down and try to fall asleep, but like the hell of it is when you're laying in bed and you're holding your eyes closed for hours and you're just laying there in your own head for hours. Like, can I please just fall asleep? And you're doing everything you've ever read or ever heard, like trying to relax your body, trying to like get your mind distracted and things like that, and nothing ever works, And
gosh,
we can put a silver lining on this and say that I have found a solution in the past year, and it is weed.
Okay.
So, hey. But I'm treating it very medicinally. I wasn't someone who ever used that before, and I came into trying it.
Is it helping you?
Oh, absolutely. It's a miracle. Like it is
really
absolutely helping me. Like I've tried all sorts of things over the years, but it is like I'm a believer now. Like I always kind of was like, really? Medicinal marijuana? Come on. Like, I don't smoke it. I'm a cheapskate. I figured out the exact cheapest dose I can get that doesn't cause me a lot of calories, and it's these little like edible tabs. I just take like half of it.
Right.
I found my dose,
and you sleep.
And what I say about it is it allows me to sleep. It doesn't make me fall asleep like some like sleep medicines can make you fall asleep, and then when you need to wake up, you can't. Like
you're like groggy and like you feel like you got hit by a truck.
Yeah, exactly. Where like
so this doesn't do it.
No, I take my half a tablet essentially usually right when my kids go to sleep at night. About an hour or so later, it kicks in, and if I want to, I can decide to go lay down and fall asleep, which is something I've never been able to do in my entire life, and I've been doing it for about a year now, and it hasn't let me down once. So it's been a miracle, and having a 2-year-old that has sleep issues and stuff has made it a lot more manageable for me. Like I'm not staying up till 3 and 4 in the morning and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's been amazing. So if there's anyone out there who's living somewhere where it's legal, give it a shot if you have insomnia.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, Those are things that you don't think about, right? You don't
Yeah.
think, and it sounds like you tried probably some other medication prescribed and things like that.
Yeah, I've tried all sorts of stuff over the years, like
And I would assume a massive relief of like, I could
oh,
fall asleep. I can, probably like, this is where has this been my whole life? I
like
mean, can you tell a bit about that?
yeah, like, my entire 100% my entire life, even when I was a little kid, is just like I would get caught in these cycles where I just can't fall asleep, and I think that's one of the reasons I've been attracted to being self-employed. So when you don't have
Mm,
kids, you can catch that sleep in the morning,
yeah.
and then when I had kids, that option disappeared, and so, I went back into being caught in these awful cycles. Like, it really is this thing where if you lose sleep, then the next night is harder to get sleep, sort of thing, and it just snowballs and snowballs.
Mm,
So being able to find something that gets me, that breaks that cycle is amazing. Like if I wanted to, I could skip it every other night or do it once or twice a week. And if I have a rough night, then I know mentally it's fine. I'm going to be able to catch it the next night or something like that.
tomorrow or
But
whatever. Okay.
it's been such a, positive and honestly, like it feels like a medically gentle sort of solution, and it's affordable. Like I think it cost me like 50 cents a night. And like you asked me at the end of the night, like, hey, you want to fall asleep when you want, or you want to stay up till 4 a.m.? It's like, I will pay you 50 cents right now.
Oh yeah.
I'd pay $5 every night to fall asleep,
Oh yeah.
honestly.
Absolutely. I mean,
But just
absolutely.
the emotional and mental relief of
Hmm.
knowing that I will be able to sleep at night is like it's worth so much more than that. And
Yeah.
especially being a dad, like like I know you had a prompt for you that you meant for the end, but if I could go back and tell young Ryan something that he wouldn't believe, I'd say using weed is going to make you a better dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a weird thing to say at this point in my life,
Yeah.
but there it
It is,
is.
but well, there's context to that, right? It's
Yeah,
not like
absolutely. I'm
you're
not
not you're not baked
no,
throughout the
no,
day.
absolutely not. Like
It's very different.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's
Put a caveat on that, right?
yeah, I'm not, I'm, I'm not Bob Marley over here,
Yeah. Or what's the Half-Baked movie?
Right,
Where
right.
he's
No,
yeah, it's not that. It's not that.
that is not my life.
Yeah. Yeah. But you found something that's good wisdom. Hey, this is something
Mhm.
that's gonna change your life and make you a better father. Like, what a wonderful thing that, gosh, if you would have known, but now it's like, hey, this
Yeah.
works and I am a better dad. I get to sleep, and I guess we're on that topic of sleep. So how has getting consistent, regular sleep, how have you seen it have an effect on you as a father?
Oh man, it's just I mean, like there's as a father, I mean, there's so many different angles to attach that from. But as a father, it means that I'm not miserable all day. And,
Mm,
if I'm feeling, well enough rested, then I'm sharp enough to stay calm, like I don't fly off the handle, like I'm not an angry
mm,
person, but it's like kids can be really frustrating. And if you're operating on, sleep deprivation, like it's really easy to be a pretty ugly and scary person, when
mhm,
and I don't want to be that kind of dad, so like it's just
mhm,
flat out like getting enough sleep flat out makes me a better dad. It makes me a better person. It makes me better at everything that I do. And
mm.
I'm not like saying like, oh, I get to sleep 10 hours a night or something. I'm still probably doing like 6 or 7, but that's enough. It's enough
Yeah,
to be functional.
yeah,
And it definitely does. It allows me to be the person that I am in my heart and my head when I'm healthy, which is,
mm,
I'd like to think I'm a kind person. I'd like to think that I'm a helpful person. And, I think that extends to being a dad. I'm a kind and helpful dad for the most part. Everyone loses their cool from time to time. But I definitely feel that like the past year, I've been a much better dad than the previous 6 years of being a dad, just because I
mm,
am well rested and I am able to be a person during the day
yeah.
instead of, walking corpse sort of situation.
Wow.
And then, like
Jeez, man.
the benefits there for me too, because I actually can, experience my children's childhood and, have fun with
Yeah.
them and stuff and not just feel wrecked all the time.
Gosh. I mean, this is not. even close to what you've probably experienced most of your life until this past year. And it's good to hear that, just to hear a real story of someone using, I'm guessing CBD, right, primarily, or THC as well.
I tried CBD and it did nothing for me, so I'm using THC.
THC.
Yeah, but there's little tablets. I don't want to smell like smoke. I don't. The thing that I worried about is like, I don't want a new hobby. You know. I've got enough. And I don't want to have, appliances and things I have to use to do this.
Yeah.
I get these, they come in like a little Altoids tin. They're a little pill.
Oh, cool.
I cut them in half to get my dose, and I just take one at bedtime, or an hour and a half before bedtime.
But it's good to hear that it's like, for you, you're finding it's again, the use of it for you is life-giving.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Right? The use is not to detach. It's not the use of like, I'm coping with life. It's not a use of the use is like
escape.
Giving me life. Yeah, it's not an escape. It's like, it's giving life to Ryan, therefore making Ryan a better, husband, father, friend, where you're not a walking corpse. And I can't even, I had a short stint of, it wasn't insomnia. It was just sleeplessness from, as we were talking briefly before, with my kids having colic. And man, there was nights I'd sleep maybe nights in a row, 1-2 hours. And there was a season, man, it was probably the darkest it's ever been. Just
your mind goes to places you never thought it would go, because like, you're essentially hallucinating.
Yes, it's literally,
it's scary.
It really is. And I remember, there's numerous times, like a couple times, because my wife and I would try and trade off to like try to get it, and like but it's a small house, you hear everything, you wake up, so you're always waking up, and then I hear her, I try to relieve her, and there was times I'd find her on the floor crying just because it was so bad, just like literally in a ball, curled up, crying, and my son's screaming. And then I take over, and then I get to a point where I'm like, I can't walk anymore. Okay. And it was like a few months of that. It's just like crazy survival of,
totally.
And, we had friends, and bless them, but they're, totally different. Their kids are sleeping, like they 20 hours, whatever it is. Right. And you're just like,
like whenever I'd meet someone who's like, oh yeah, my kid sleeps so bad they woke up once last night. You're just like, shut up.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me. Like, I don't want to hear anything from you ever again.
Yeah. That's my inner dialogue. That's my inner dialogue. Exteriorly, I'm like, yes.
That's nice. Oh, that must be so rough. Yeah.
I have my best therapist face on, externally, but internally, and we're like, you have no clue.
Yeah.
And all I know is that season, that like, it gave me a perspective of, man, this is when I hear a parent or a person talking about like struggling with sleep, like insomnia, it gave me my perspective. It's like your perspective shifts of like, oh man, I can't even, just awful, just so to hear you, to hear that, like, man, that was a life struggle until a year ago, knowing that, man, I experienced that, knowing that there was an end at the light of the tunnel for me. And we still have moments with their kids waking up. They're actually doing really good right now. And my hope is that's because, in a few months, we're going to be re-entering the sleeplessness with our third kid. And I'm really hoping that this kid doesn't have colic and doesn't, but we'll see what the universe decides to grant us.
I hope you have an easy third like that.
That's the hope. And, but if not, we know mentally there's an end.
Yeah.
Like, and with our second, it's like, I knew there was an end with our second. Like, oh, I know there's a light here. Like,
honestly, it sounds like, you can't be worse.
No. And our second was like, had colic, but not as bad.
Right.
Had struggle sleeping, but not as bad. So it was a little easier on all fronts. It was still hard, but nothing like our first. And I felt so, and I think for me, the hardest thing, too, in those moments when like, it's like when they're in pain and you can't do anything. It's like you're trying everything.
Yes, the worst.
And you're just like, and you're sleep deprived. So you're exhausted and you're trying, you just feel, I don't know if there was times I just felt completely helpless. I was like, I just feel I can't do anything.
It makes you feel,
I'm not sure if you can relate to that at all.
Sick to your stomach when you can't help your kids. And it's like when they don't have the words. They can't talk yet. They can't tell you exactly what hurts or where or why they're having such a tough time. Man, it drives you bonkers. Like, especially, and you throw this, the altered state that you're in because you haven't slept on top of that, and it's it becomes a trip. It becomes like this really abstract moment that you're living in, and it feels like it's never going to end. Like it is wild to be a parent.
Yeah.
A new parent. Like, I'm sure it's, like I said, it never gets better. It gets different. There's a whole other set of worries and anxieties that you get into when you start having, preteens and teens and then kids moving out and stuff like that. Like I look to the future and I see those events happening. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to mentally be able to handle that.
Yeah. And that's part of why I'm doing this podcast, is to get some perspective, some perspective as well. Hey, what did you do? Tell me. Like,
I look forward to, father of teenage kids, Ryan. I'm like, good luck. You're barely holding on now. Good luck when they're teenagers. Like, what are you gonna do? I was a really like chill, like tame. A square is a word you could use to describe my teenage years. If my kids aren't that, I have no idea how I'm going to handle that. If my kids are a bit wild in the teens, like I have no idea. I'm not equipped to deal with that. What do you do?
Yeah. What I found is that I feel like as a dad, you're kind of forced to figure it out.
Yeah.
In a way.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether it's talking to another dad or another mom, or it's like, you kind of have to, it's like, there's no option. You have to figure whatever the heck got to do some research.
Oh yeah.
It's interesting that sleep deprivation is a real, and again, not everyone experiences it, and
no, not at all.
Every time I meet a soon to be dad, I'm always like, hey, I really hope your kid sleeps. I really, really do. And if he doesn't, or they don't, just, I'm here.
Yeah.
Talk to me. I can give you just my experience and share what helped us. And again, everything's different, but I got someone in your corner to listen, because I get it. When it's hard, it's hard, and it's a hard season. And to have someone has understanding of that experience does help, to know like, oh yeah, I've been there. I get sleep deprivation.
Right.
It is a monster. So to hear you though, going back to what I was saying before, is that pre-kids, you already had that, man. It's to me life-giving that, hey, THC is helping you, providing you life of, I can sleep and count on it and know I can sleep.
I can bet money that I'll be able to sleep. I can bet money that I'll be able to fall asleep before midnight every night, which is like, that's still late for a lot of people, but for me, that's early. Like that's a luxury at this point in my life. And someday when my kids get older and they're sleeping through the night, all the time, and they don't need me to get them out the door for school in the morning, stuff like that, and I go back to being, just regular self-employed dude, I might not need it anymore. It might be fine for me to have late nights, or I might, skip it most of the time. And because then I'll be able to sleep in the morning. It won't be a big deal. But for the time being, it 100% is improving the quality of me being a person and a dad, a husband, all of that.
And it's working. I mean, the benefit is, like you said, it's working.
Yeah.
And the cost benefit, right? The benefit is significant.
Yeah, totally.
And the cost is low. And, in the industry I work in within mental health and having people sleep issues, I do a whole lot of natural stuff. And some people do take medications to help. And hey, those have costs too.
Oh yeah.
And it's different for every person,
Absolutely.
You don't know until you take it, but everything has a cost benefit. It's trying to find someone, how do I give this person the most benefit with little to no cost to help them, whatever it might be, whether it's anxiety, depression, sleep issues, whatever it might be, is how do I give them the most help with little to no cost or negative cost?
Yeah, totally.
And to hear you, I'm like, that's what a great, honestly, testimonial of like, hey, THC actually works. And not for everybody, you got to try it, and especially if you're insomnia. But to hear for you, I'm like, gosh, that's
my wife has struggled with anxiety disorder for a lot of years of her life, and she tried a little bit of the dose that I take, and it was not for her. She's like, this is not compatible with who I am.
Yeah. So the flip side is, I work with people that actually, for some, THC has the reverse and actually makes you more anxious and can induce panic attacks, and I've seen that too, and it can be scary. Like, it does not work for everybody.
It is not for everyone. Me saying that it helps me dramatically is not a license for everyone to go out there and, like
Ryan said,
go hog wild with it. Like, there is clearly, obviously, the recreational side of it. But if you're chasing it, if you're pursuing it as a medicinal thing, which I didn't realize I would end up doing in my life, like, you treat it different. You don't. I mean, I'll be honest. Like, sometimes it hits a little bit harder than normal, and I'm sitting on the couch waiting to go to bed, and whatever I'm watching on TV becomes a little extra funny. Like, But for the
You don't
most
say.
for the most part, like that is the most like inconvenient
Yeah.
side effect that I've experienced with it.
Mm.
Like I feel like I wake up just like I had normal sleep in the morning. I don't feel a hangover. Like if I was,
Mhm.
using alcohol or even like Robitussin or NyQuil or something like that, like that stuff makes
Yeah.
for a while I
Oh, yeah.
used NyQuil because it was like, I need to break this cycle. I know this will kick me out of it. But those mornings after NyQuil, man, ooh,
Mhm.
that is
Yeah.
rough. That is a different kind of hangover, especially if you've
Yeah.
been, going without sleep for a long time before that.
I can't imagine. I
Yeah.
can't even
And you
imagine.
can't take that stuff every
It's like
night. Like
regularly.
it'll
No, you
it'll
can't.
rot your guts out. Like
Yeah, that stuff is like, oh my gosh, that stuff, I don't even know what it's like jet fuel, man. I
yeah.
can't, if I take it too, I feel like so like weighted and groggy and like the neck, or like Tylenol PM. I've done that before when I
Mhm.
like been sick. Oh my gosh, I wake up just like I feel like I'm a wet blanket the next day.
Oh,
Just
totally.
I don't wake up for hours. I'm just like, what is wrong with me? And just have a headache. And yeah, it's interesting how any type of medication or anything we put in our body, how it can affect us in such different
Mhm.
ways. It's like it's really dependent upon the person and what works for you, and how does it affect Ryan, and why are you using it at the end of the day. And
Right.
then I think the theme, what I'm hearing for you, is you took it because you needed sleep, and one, it made you a better dad and human being. So
Of
that's
course.
what an amazing blessing. Like,
Yeah.
hey, like seriously, what, like honestly, what an amazing
Yeah,
blessing.
I'm not on a natural path or anything like that. I'm very far from a hippie, but man, like
And
it's
this you are.
it's undeniably a miracle in my life.
Yeah.
It's undeniable. And like going back to my podcast, the only reason why I tried it is because someone sent us a $420 donation to the podcast. And they were like, okay, we get the hint. We get what you want us to do. And so Steve and I went and
Wow.
bought edibles, and we consumed before the show, and Steve didn't feel a damn thing. It kicked in for me like in the last 10 minutes of the podcast. And then I fell asleep immediately. The moment I
Wow.
went to bed, and I was like, holy hell. Like I was not expecting that. Like I laid down and I passed out. And that doesn't even, like, if I, in my, in my younger days, if I partied and, put one over and had a lot to drink, like I wouldn't pass out. I could still be up.
Mhm.
I'd just be drunk.
Yeah.
But to
Yeah.
lay down and be like, "Oh man, I'm so relaxed," and then I just pass out.
Hmm.
I woke up the next morning and I was like, "I've got 9 doses. I've got 9 brownies left in this bag, and I'm going to experiment with my doses," cuz that was amazing. And it's hard with the brownies cuz they crumble and everything. So I'm like putting together little groups of crumbs and like, we'll see if this thing I didn't measure was an effective dose. I was also
That's
worried about like, building up tolerances and stuff like that. And
yeah.
I think if you're, like a heavy all day smoker sort of thing, like you can build up tolerances, like, or like you're just trying to be high all day. Like so far I've been on the same dose for over a year now, and
Yeah.
I haven't felt a need to change. It just lets me sleep.
Yeah. What, I mean, seriously, again, what a wonderful thing, and what a
Yeah.
a show that turned into
I know.
some
It went a different direction, didn't it?
yeah. No, no, but I mean, what a random thing of a viewer of your own show setting you this, like, let's try it, and then
Yeah.
finding this random thing of, this actually helps my insomnia,
Yeah.
and I'm actually sleeping, and
No,
let me actually do some science behind this and figure out what actually works for my body, and to find that actually for you, the way the use of it was a medicinal thing, and found, again, just life-giving. And
yeah.
it's again, I'm guessing you didn't predict that happening
No.
from the show and having the brownie, like, oh, let's have a brownie and have a show, and then found out, oh, this, what, I'm sleeping, like,
Right. No, it was a
you know,
totally unexpected. Like I didn't expect that at all. I never in my wildest of dreams would have been like, "Oh, I'm going to find a solution to my lifelong sleep problem that I've been cursed with my entire
gosh,
life." Like what a
jeez,
wild thing to happen.
yeah,
I should probably send a present to the person that sent all that
probably,
money.
yeah, maybe think, hey, you didn't know this, but you solved the big problem in my life.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
use it the way you probably intended, but hey, this still,
Yeah, he
that's
probably just
fine
wanted me
with
to have a
brownies.
good time.
Yeah, and which I did, and then now
Yeah.
this.
It's been a it
So
it's been a bit
go ahead.
interesting because I do a lot of travel,
Mm.
for what I do.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I've traveled to in the past couple months, I've traveled to Nashville, Tennessee. I've traveled to Germany. I just traveled to Fort Wayne, Indiana. And
wow,
I am smart enough to know not to bring that stuff with me. Like I am not, it's legal in California. I'm not going to travel with it, you know? And so I spend, 3 days to a week traveling without it. And I see immediately how quickly, like I just immediately go back to the way that I was.
Oh, that fast.
It's, it's immediate. Like if I don't take it, then I'd go right back. And, you throw in jet lag and everything else with that. And I get back into that sleepless cycle. Like when I went to Germany, it's a 20-hour trip, everything included, train rides and layovers and stuff like that. And by the time I get to bed, because I can't sleep on planes, like I just can't.
Oh gosh.
By the time I get to bed, I've been awake, because you get to Germany, it's the morning. You spend the day hanging out with people. I've been awake for like 30, 32 hours, something like that. And then you think like, oh, well, you've been awake like for twice as long as you normally would be awake. You're going to sleep great. No, I slept 3 hours that first night. So I woke up after 3 hours of sleep after a 30-something hour day. And then I did a full day of work. And then the night after that, I got 5 hours of sleep, and I was completely refreshed compared to the previous night. But then I was kind of stuck in this like 5-hour sleep cycle the whole time I was gone. And then I come home, and then I'm fighting jet lag again. But at least at home, I have something that works for me. So
because you're right. It's not legal. I'm guessing it's illegal in, I don't know, Germany. I'm guessing it's legal and everything else. I don't know.
I think, it's different styles of legal, different places. Like, but I'm not going to travel with it. I'm not going to cross state lines.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? I'm not going to cross state lines. I feel nervous crossing state lines with my diabetes medicine. Like I said, I grew up square. I'm worried like someone's going to pull me over and be like, "Hey, where's your doctor's note for
for diabetes for insulin?" For
insulin. I'm type 2. I'm not on insulin, but
okay. Still, you're right. Yeah. Oh my gosh, man. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, you got that paranoia already. So
I haven't experienced that. I'm a very cautious person. I can't talk all of a sudden. It's 10 o'clock at night. So.
It's the tab kicking in, right?
No.
So no, you haven't taken it yet. That's good.
Not yet. I'll take it right after this.
Ryan, now as a dad, like we talked about your dad journey and kind of transitioning from working from home, having a kid, and then really just like insomnia and sleeplessness and that thing that you didn't think would be an issue, and how much more difficult it became, with having insomnia and then having kids who woke up. Because you're right, my 5, 6, regardless, they're up. And that's what my kids are. It doesn't matter what happens, they're going to be up.
Yeah. Right now, my daughter's going through a thing where, like, for most of her life, she's been totally cool sleeping alone in a crib in her own bed or whatever. In the past, like 3 months, she's just decided, like, no, I want to be cuddled all night. And so we'll put her to bed. She gets up at sometimes 11 o'clock, sometimes 1 o'clock in the morning. And then it's like one of us has to be with her, but we keep trying to, like, ditch her.
Get her back.
Like get back to our own bed. But it's been this struggle for about 3 months with her. Like it doesn't stop once they get older. Like you get into the toddler years, and they can go back. They go back and forth.
This is it's a sleep podcast, which is good. It's a sleep podcast. It's a real thing.
I think,
and for the dads out there,
like sleep is going to be like a number one issue. Like for young dads,
it really is. And no, for sure. And ours, like our eldest had really bad sleep, and he was doing better. And then he had a season of like just night terrors.
Oh yeah, that's the worst.
It was like
when they're just like freaking out and you can't calm them down. It's almost like they're like sleepwalking or something like that, but they're sleep freaking out.
No, it was sleep freaking out. And then that created a whole other, almost like reliving sleep deprivation again. Because sometimes it would take like a half hour sometimes to snap them out of it and settle them down. It was like, this is like 1 a.m, and then you're kind of wired and can't sleep again. And then
they wake up like nothing happened in the morning, and you're looking at him, like, how dare you?
Yeah, I know. But then his day he'd have more meltdowns in the day because he woke up. he didn't sleep well. And then, so man, it was like, it's just, you have these seasons, right? Like with your daughter, it's like everything's good. And then there's a funk season for like 3-4 months. Like, man, what is this? And thankfully right now they're doing good. And well, this will probably be my last sleep story, then we'll transition. But my youngest, he had a moment where a good month where he got excited about taking his diaper off, and that became just the most hilarious thing.
Gosh, no.
Just thought it was just funnier. And he's our youngest, he's a natural goofball. Like he just likes to make us laugh, himself laugh, just very different personality than our eldest. And we'd go in and he would just be sitting there staring at us and say diaper, and then and he would just start laughing and rolling and be off. Or sometimes his butt would just be sticking up in the air, and he'd pull the blanket over his head, and you'd just see his rear end just sticking out, and no diaper.
That's going to be his joke for the rest of his life. Like, it's not going to go over well in college.
Oh my gosh! And he just thought it was the bee's knees, and we'd go in and he'd take it off, and man, we'd have to put it back on sometimes like 4 or 5 times. And one time I missed it, so he peed everywhere. Had a couple of those times where he'd take it off in the middle of the night and just pee. And then thankfully that wasn't that long of a season and he got out of it. Now he's back to sleeping again. So it's interesting. Kids go through these seasons. It's a real thing. And, I don't know if you experienced this, but with your spouse during that sleeplessness, there was times we would have little arguments because you're so tired.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, like the first couple times when I had my major breakdowns, it was like you think everything in the world is wrong, and like every little like thing that rubbed you the wrong way a week ago like comes up in your head, and like you think everything has this huge weight on you. Every minor little thing that happened during the week or the month or whatever has this huge weight. Like how dare you? Like, so it's like, like it sucks. Like it sucks for your spouse if, you're sleepless and you have these mental breakdowns because you're sleepless and you're not in your right mind, and things affect you emotionally in a way that doesn't make any sense because you're essentially hallucinating. It's rough for everyone. It is not great. I have not heard my wife complain about my new sleep aid because it has improved the quality of life around here.
Good.
So something kind of interesting, to calling back to something that I think you mentioned, like enjoying like little moments and stuff like that, and enjoying these moments in the hard times and stuff like that. With my daughter having all these sleep issues in the past couple months, it's like I'm well rested enough that it's not an emergency anymore to lose sleep. I mean, I wake up totally cramped up because I was sleeping in a child-sized bed, sharing it with a toddler. But like I'll be completely grumpy and just like, I can't believe I'm up at 3 a.m. like putting her back to bed. I'm gonna fall asleep in here, and she wants to be held and stuff like that. And then I have the thought like, I'm not gonna have this forever. It's this is a limited supply. Like I'm not gonna be cuddling my daughter to sleep for the rest of my life. This is not gonna last very long at all. Hopefully maybe a month or two and then it's over. But then trying to have the presence of mind to make memories out of those moments and kind of cherish those moments and be like, these are pure parenthood moments. These are pure dad moments right here that I'm never going to get back. And I'm not going to remember the sleeplessness as much as I'm going to remember, how important this is. So,
yeah, that's, I definitely relate to that and resonate with, again, my youngest was going through this season of a similar thing where he want me to pick him up more. And I'm like, no, you need to sleep. And he would say, hodo, hodo, hodo. Cause he's trying to say, hold me.
Yeah.
He said, hodo, hodo, hodo. And there's sometimes I'm like, no, I picked you up, like just time to sleep, and then I had a transitional moment of like, yeah, he's not going to want this eventually. And then I shifted and I started enjoying it. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to choose to enjoy it versus choose to be frustrated that he's not sleeping. I'm going to choose to enjoy this because I know that eventually he's not going to ask me to hodo him, to hold him. Yeah. And he would just, as soon as I hold him, he would just nuzzle up. And I'm like, oh, like what a sweet moment to like, I could just stay frustrated that he's not sleeping. And I had moments like that, for sure. of like, I want to sleep and ready to go, and I want to sit down, I want to have my dinner, whatever it is. But it's amazing when you shift that perspective of just the different emotions that come, and the mental calming, and really enjoying being present. You were kind of saying that and alluding to being present to the moment and saying, yeah, this is not going to last. And because eventually it'll be different. Eventually you'll be 14 and they'll be dealing with something. Eventually 24 won't be living with, it's like a blink. I'm going to want to remember doing the Hodo moments and holding him and be like, yeah, it's fine. I'm glad I did that and enjoyed it versus just not,
Yeah. I mean, it's really easy to be miserable when you're tired. And it's, if you have the presence of mind to kind of realize that in those moments are fleeting and there's something really special happening in them, like that can be really great. But it helps if you have, at least enough mental fortitude to be able to approach that. My firstborn would not sleep unless he was being held or touched. And that was really, really rough. And so in the first probably 6 months to a year that he was born, I don't remember the actual length of time, but my wife needed a break. She just did. She can't hold him all day. And because every nap, baby sleeps so much, but they break it up like into these half-hour chunks. Like she needed to have a couple hours to go get actual sleep too. So I would hold him at night. My insomnia came in handy at this point, because I would hold him until basically he wouldn't stay asleep in my arms anymore. And sometimes that would be like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I just hold him on the couch and like watch, like crappy sci-fi movies and stuff like that, like all night long. But like I have all these memories of like sitting on the couch for hours, holding him and having him be dead asleep in my arms because I'm holding him. The moment I put him down, he wakes up.
Oh my gosh.
But like
same with that. Couldn't put him down.
But being able to sit there and hold my newborn son like for hours every single night was huge for me. Like that memory is really, really important to me.
Yeah. It's like that. It's that light in the midst of the just like traumatic darkness of sleeplessness, right? It's like, that's the memory you want to remember is, I got to hold him and watch crappy, probably but very exciting sci-fi movies.
I ran out of stuff. I got to the back end of Netflix.
That's a dark place.
There's not good content when you get past 10%. Like there's a lot of really terrible stuff.
That's funny. And again, that's the perspective of shifting of, you can focus on the difficulty, which in the moment is really hard, right? It's in the moment, it is really hard. Looking back now, you're like, you know what? That was sweet moments. I'm going to remember those and pluck those, and that got to hold my newborn son. And gosh, it really sounds like ours, man. He wouldn't sleep either. If we put him down, it was like immediately would wake up and start screaming. And, we couldn't even sit down, like sitting.
We never had it that bad. He would let us sit, and he would lay on our chest and stuff like that.
Couldn't sit. We had to stand and bounce. And so, but if we sat and bounced, I don't know if it was like the gravity was different, but he would sense it.
No,
like, how do you sense this? I'm like, this is ridiculous. But thankfully he's pretty much a great sleeper. He'll wake up every now and then, but nothing like it was. And I'm really happy for him actually at the end of the day, because he's sleeping. I mean, there was times I'm like, how are you functioning as a human being? Like, how are you functioning? Like, I'm not functioning. How are you? I had numerous conversations with him, usually over tears, and he would just look at me like, I don't know.
Figure it out, Dad.
I'm like, thanks, dude.
I'm the
I don't
first
have the answers
person
here.
who doesn't need to sleep in the history of the world. Deal with it.
Thank you. It's to transition a bit. How does Ryan now? How does Ryan take care of his mental health? How does he do self-care? What does it look like in the season of life, of dad life, of adult life, of man life? What does Ryan do for kind of mental health / self-care?
Yeah, well, what we've talked about as far as my medication and stuff goes is a huge part of it. What I wish I could be better at, is I need more time for like physical activity and stuff. Like I'm getting older, I'm 40. Yeah. I need some daily maintenance, and the time management side of all this is really hard. It's really difficult. So my self-care is been trying to figure out how to get some time to like take care of my body a little bit more. And that might just end up being like, do one surf session a week or something like that. But it's been really hard for me to figure out the time to do that and stuff. It's like, do I take away work time or do I take away weekend time? And it becomes, you're either taking away time from providing for your family or you're taking away time from being with your family. So, any new thing, like even if I went to the gym for half an hour, like it feels like I'm losing time that is so valuable on the scales of my life, So that's been my struggle that I wish I was, taking care of
better
myself.
at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In that direction. But then like
so that's been the struggle. What's been like a not struggle or like something you found good rhythm of self-care, mental health, like all that? What do you do well, do you think, right now?
I mean, it really does come down to like managing my sleep issues. Like that has made everything better. I know there's a little bit of like a broken record here on this episode, but it like that has been the source of so many things getting better. Like my relationship with my wife, being able to have discussions with her when we have quiet moments to have discussions and stuff, and being able to be more emotionally and mentally stable and all that. Like it's just been a different game for me. The past year or so. That it's hard to think of anything that outweighs that in this moment. I'm sure everyone always has stuff to work on. I've got plenty more to work on, but in the moment, I've been enjoying everything that's come with personal revelation.
It's not a broken record because what I'm hearing is the value of sleep and how important it is. And it's funny because often when I first, when I have a client come in and I'm getting their history, one thing we assess is sleep.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of research talks and has shown just how important sleep is.
Yeah.
And how people can have anxiety issues or depression issues or all these things, and all of a sudden they start to sleep. And a lot of not always, but a lot of times, a lot of it can be corrected and much improved by sleeping.
Oh yeah, I don't want to say it turns down the intensity of everything that you're going through to get sleep, but it like the opposite is true. Losing sleep turns up the intensity of everything that you're going through. And it's just it's so important to rest. Like I was finding that when I was in those long bouts of sleep issues, my body wasn't healing. Like I'd have like a hurt shoulder and it was just nag at me for months and months and months because I wasn't able to sleep. I wasn't able to heal because my body was just putting all this energy and just keeping me on my feet instead of, mending anything that I had going wrong. So I had all these health issues like piling up and stuff like that. And that's like a whole other side of it. Like not even talking about the mental stuff. I mean, mental stuff is huge, but man, it's
the physical
rough.
side.
Like if you have a rough kid as far as sleeping goes, man, it like you earn your gray hair. Like that's just the reality of it. Like when you hear like people joke like, "Oh, this gray hair came from my kids," that's what they're talking about. They're not talking about like, "Oh, they jump on the couch sometimes." Like, no, it's like
it's a real thing.
It's like going through war. Like,
oh, I've gotten quite a bit of gray hair from the sleeplessness. Absolutely, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a ton of it came in thick. I was like, oh yeah, there it is. There's the badge of honor.
Every one of those hairs is a night of lost sleep.
Probably.
Yeah, it might be.
I want, it would have been good to like be a before, like a progressive daily photo of like, on the sleepless nights, like, there's 3 more. Oh, there, like just to see it kind of spreading. And slow down a bit. And it's probably because they're sleeping.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking number 3, it'll flare up again.
Maybe. I mean, you might have an easy one. Like, we all know people who have easy kids and they don't know they have an easy
I do.
kid.
I know them. I know plenty, and I know plenty. So I know plenty, and I'm.
But even if you have an easy kid, like being a parent is not
hard.
easy. Like everything else becomes the issue.
Even if they sleep, I'm gonna have a 3rd kid, and I'm like that. Now we're outnumbered, so I don't. This is a whole new territory. Like this is the new frontier. I'm like, I don't know what to expect. I still have to figure out how to get 3 car seats lined up in one row.
Yeah,
that's the next thing. I think I have to sell 2 to get narrow ones because I took the old ruler out, and I'm like, it's not gonna fit.
They're so big now.
They're so bulky and wide.
Yeah.
It's like I have to get this because I have to move my youngest into like a those what are those called
the booster.
It's not a booster yet. It's like he's 2, so he's still reverse. It's like the reverse that you could then flip around and then you could like put the seat up straight, and so it's like a seat now. But like I can't have those two side by side with the current model because they're too wide. And I'm like, oh, now I have to sell these. And
you could do a whole episode with multiple guests on car seats, and
oh my gosh,
it's like I have a huge complaint about car seats.
Talk about it. Tell us, Ryan.
So there's a portion behind it where you're supposed to pass the belt through. On the car seat that we have, it is 100% not made for a father to allow to pass his hand through. It's just big enough for my wife to pass her hand through. Like it's literally designed for a woman's arm to pass the belt through. You can't do it if you have a large hand.
Okay.
It's like, why did they do that? Like it's just these, this plastic hole, and I see there's an extra inch. They could have like made it bigger, and they didn't. They didn't think about it, or they're like, who's going to install this thing? What can we do to make it look more attractive? We don't want this hole to be too big, do we? It just has to be big enough for the belt to pass through, and a mom's hand to push it through. I've just lost my mind trying to get that car seat buckled in.
Dude. Well, especially if you have the kids,
right?
If you're giving the white, it's like, hey, I'm taking the kids, and I'm like, I can't get this thing in.
You're trying to get it in, and the kids are crawling around the car, or they're waiting in the house, or something like that, or worse, like running around the car, or something like that. Oh my gosh!
Yeah, and you're
hot outside.
Around, yeah, that's a day. Those are fun dad days. You're trying to do something nice and just do anything. You're like, I'm gonna throw this car seat out the car right now.
I pushed for us to move my son into the booster seat earlier than my wife wanted to. Like she wanted to keep, him in the full car seat for longer. But being in the full car seat meant that we had two car seats in the back seat that were taking up all the space. And because the toddler was back facing, they were essentially, and how bulky they are, like they were basically right next to each other, looking at each other in the face, and just tormenting each other no matter where we drove. And so moving him into a booster gave extra space for them to be separated from each other. And that was like a huge development.
So here's a natural question. Here's just natural question. How good are your kids car kids? Like, are they good in the car? Are they, are they screamers decent in the car? Are they okay?
So we just got back from a family cabining trip, not camping, but we were in a cabin. We were up in the woods.
Cabining. I like
that. And it's about a 9-hour drive to get out to this cabin. The way up there, we left butt crack of dawn. Like we left, I think, like at 3:30 in the morning. And so we got about 4 hours under our belt before they started, getting kind of antsy. They woke up and then they were started like, where are we? Like, I need a pee, that sort of thing. And then getting up there, there was about 2 more good hours, and then it turned into we have to pull over every half an hour to let them run around because they were losing their mind. For some reason, on the way back after a week of being in the cabin, they were just chill about it. And we drove home middle of the day, 9 hours, and they fussed a little bit, but they were on board and they were fine. So it probably might have been a fluke. I don't know. But the ride home was way better than I thought it was going to be.
That's always good. Yeah, our kids tend to be good car kids. I have some. So that's the one saving grace when they were little is car kids. I know we can get them in the car and they'd pass out.
Oh man,
like, they were good.
So my firstborn, it was almost hilarious. Like he would be like angry that we were trying to put him down for a nap. We'd put him in the stroller or the car seat, and he knew, like, this is going to make me fall asleep. How dare you? Why are you doing this to me? And then we start the engine, and he'd be like raging, and then just be like, oh. he couldn't not pass out. Like if he was in a moving stroller or a moving car, like he couldn't be awake. And it was our retreat. Like we would be like, we're taking you on a nap drive. It's just, this is going to be our only sanity.
Yeah. No, we would do that. We would take like date nap car drives, just talk.
Yeah, totally.
We would just sit in it and we would drive for like, an hour just around, just up and down, like a big loop. And it worked. I'm like, why not? At this point, we're so tired.
That's money well spent. Like you go blow $20 in your gas tank to get your kid to sleep. It feels worth it.
I'm good. I feel good. You're like, this is great. I don't have to rock him because I would be so sore. I mean, for hours of holding it, you'd be so sore and in pain. You're like, you don't realize it. You're like, you're right. I'm not not a spring chicken anymore.
I blew out my shoulder.
Oh my!
On my
From
firstborn.
holding your kid?
Yeah.
No way.
And Steve did the same thing. Steve blew out his shoulder too.
No.
What it was from carrying, but also because, like I said, my firstborn wouldn't sleep without being touched. So I was sleeping every night with him tucked right here, and I completely blew out my shoulder.
Oh my
And it
gosh.
took years for it to heal. Like, and
Jeez.
that on top of all the other issues and stuff.
Insomnia and everything
Yeah,
else.
yeah, and
Jeez.
like I said, it took forever for me to heal from things like cuts and bruises and sore muscles and stuff. Took extra long to heal. But unfortunately, my daughter she wouldn't fall asleep in a stroller. She wouldn't fall asleep in the car. She was
Dang. So
fine.
the
Like, she
opposite problem.
wouldn't throw fits in the car most of the time. Like, every kid has
Yeah.
their day. But man, there's nothing you can do to make her fall asleep. She falls asleep when she wants to. Where, like, being able to, like, cause our firstborn to go to sleep, it was more of a miracle than we realized at the time.
Yeah. Right.
I had this plan because I would take him on long walks in the stroller so my wife could,
Yep.
work with clients and stuff like that. I would go out and walk the neighborhood for like 2 hours, and the
Mhm.
moment I stopped pushing it, he would wake up.
Yep.
I had this plan to, like, put together a device where I could bring the stroller home once he fell asleep and hook the wheels into a device that would, like, vibrate the whole stroller to make him think it was still moving.
No, that was our firstborn. Same thing. You stop it, like, it's just like, boop, like,
It's an on
I'm
and off
awake.
switch. It's so
You're
weird.
like, "What?" And, we would I remember with red lights, we would be
Oh,
driving,
yeah.
and this will be, like, the last stinking sleep story, but red lights, you'd be seeing, "Oh, and there's like, oh, there's a red light, there's a red light, there's a red light. We can't hit this red light. He's gonna wake up, and he's gonna scream, and then we can't." And so we would, like I would do everything I can to, like, idle and just still keep moving
You see that the
and,
light's
like
turning and you're just slow way down, like, "I gotta keep it rolling."
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I did that
Gotta move.
dance.
I can't just how do I and then I have the AC on just for, like, sound, like, white just
Yeah.
anything just to keep it consistent, and I turn it up just like, "Nope, nope, nope, nope." And, like, the car, it's like, "Come on, green, 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 green," and then, oh my gosh, it was just constantly it was a game. It became fun, like, and had to make it fun because otherwise I'm gonna go insane, but
So
how do we hit every green light?
here's my last sleep story, I swear. But this is a funny one. We decided to go to Maui for a big family vacation. We got the grandparents and the
Okay.
siblings to go. So anyways, all that doesn't matter. But we were on the flight there, and we basically take like a red eye. We're like, oh, surely he'll
Mhm.
sleep during the night. He didn't sleep
Oh my
one
gosh.
moment on the plane. It's like a 6-hour flight. Everyone around us, like, he wasn't screaming and crying, but he wanted to crawl all over everything. He wanted to play. He wanted
Oh,
to run
no.
in the aisles. Everyone around us is just like looking at us like, you're that person with the kid. You're the person with the kid on the
Yeah.
flight. And we're like, we're so sorry. I swear to you, the moment the plane put down its flaps and its landing gear and started slowing down to land, passed out in this seat. And we, like, took a picture of him. We're like, what the hell? And everyone around us was like, what? Now? We're
No.
about to get off the plane. Now he's asleep?
Gosh. And you're just like, I have to, like, go now and have energy and, like,
Yeah.
the things you don't plan for, you try to plan. You're like, "Oh, he'll sleep," and then you're like, "Nope, that's out the window.
Yeah.
Nope, nope,
You
nope,
can't.
nope,
You
nope."
can't. You hope.
Dude,
You hope, but you can't
you
plan.
yeah, you hope. You hope. Oh my gosh. So 2 final questions.
Sure.
I'm wondering just with you said you wanna get better at doing some physical stuff as a dad and doing some physical activity to
Yeah.
help with self-care and you're doing found that really the miracle of THC and the benefit of sleep, and that's self-care. That's like taking
Yeah.
care of your mental, holistic health, really. It's like that's mental, emotional, physical, because sleep affects everything.
Yeah.
And so, right, like what are some practical things you do as a dad besides those, like the sleep
Sure.
and, hey, I want to surf, but what are some practical things you do just to take care of like little stressors throughout the day? Like, how do you cope with that? Like, what
Oh,
do you
man.
do that works that you found that, hey, these work for me, these are helpful and effective, just to kind of give those to other dads out there?
Man, that's something I really struggle with because it's honestly really hard to convince myself. Like, what I need to be doing is
Mm-hmm.
when I'm like feel like I'm going insane from what's happening. I honestly just need to put on my shoes and walk out the door for like 5 minutes and go for a walk or something
Okay.
like that. Like, that would help me out a lot. But then I always, it's always wrestling this guilt of, don't walk, I shouldn't be walking away from a hard situation. But then, the reality is me being in a not great mental state makes the situation harder, and it would be better for me to take a walk. So ideally I should be, stepping out, which doesn't sound like the thing dads are supposed to do, which is part of, the moral dilemma there. But I give that to my wife. I grab the kids and like, you need a break. Mommy needs a break. And I take them away, sort of thing. Like there's, daddy needs a break. Like I should be, just like, okay, I gotta go. You guys will survive 5 or 10 minutes while I walk the block and get my head straight.
Yeah.
So that's what I should be doing.
Well, it's something you could do, right? I don't know if I want to do the shoulds,
Oh,
right? The
totally.
shoulds is always a fun
could.
one.
Yeah, that's a
But
better word for it.
it's what you could do, right? Stop shitting on yourself. Dad joke of the night. So what does Ryan do now, though? What is his primary
You
coping
should make a shirt
skill?
out of that. Stop shooting
Yeah.
yourself.
Stop shitting on yourself. Yeah, it's a good one.
Okay, what was the question? I interrupted you so many times. It's a bad
Oh, no,
habit.
you're fine. But what does he do now? Like, what do you do right now? Like, what's a go-to for you? Whether it's healthy or not, I don't care. What's your
The
go-to?
honest answer is I just grin and bear it and endure it,
Okay.
I stick it out, and then, my rest time to get my head straight is after the kids go to bed. And thankfully my kids are good at going to bed. They go to bed at the same time every night very, very easily.
Okay.
To be able to have like time that things will be a certain way is very valuable.
Yeah.
But
Good.
yeah, wait, I generally have to put, or I don't have to, I choose to put off anything like that, like personal self-reflection and like thinking through, what I'm going through or what happened during the day. Putting that off till the end of the day is just what I do.
So when you do that, what recharges you? Like, what's one thing you do that recharges Ryan?
This might be surprising, but I'm a bit of an introvert. So honestly, just like being alone, like I just need to be alone, and I sit and like it's like I can sit and watch a movie or a TV show or something like that, and just kind of like be able to zone out, kind of like what's around me, and just be in my thoughts. That way is how I recharge. I'm one of those people that I'm outgoing and I'm social, but that's a draining activity for me. And having kids that are, they need 100% hands-on attention all the time is extremely draining for me. So just being quiet and alone is a huge part of my mental health. If I don't get that, I start to suffer a bit.
Well, and that's good to know. Hey, it's important as an introvert that, right? That's the classic definition, is that recharging of alone time and being in your thoughts and having that to then recharge. And you sound like a outgoing introvert, right?
Yeah.
What do they call them? Extroverted introvert. You can put it on, but then you still really need that.
Yeah.
You need to really unplug. And
when I was a kid, I was a capital I introvert. Like very shy and all that stuff. Like being social and everything came much later in life.
Yeah.
Came with a job, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you definitely put it on, but
Sure.
it's.
I mean, I enjoy people, which is something that people who enjoy people don't go around saying to people.
It's true.
Oh yeah, I enjoy people. Now I sound like some sort of like sociopath.
It's okay. I'm gonna quietly send you an email from some referrals I can give you to some people that I trust that know these things. Yes,
this guy's in rough shape.
So to close out, what would Ryan, above all else, as a father, what would he want his kids to know?
I think the thing that most people want for their kids, most parents want for their kids, whether they realize it's this or not, they might, they think that the goal is something that would lead to this. Not realizing that really you just want your kids to be happy and to know how to be happy. And, like some people think like, if my kids aren't successful, then they won't be happy. Well, they might be successful and not happy, but I think that worry of like, oh, my kids won't be happy, won't have enough comfort in their life that they have time to be happy and to be people who are enjoying their lives. That's all we want. Like, all I want is my kids to be able to enjoy their lives and have a good life. So knowing how to be happy is a skill. You know, it's
Well, and let me ask you this to push you a little bit. Define what you mean by happy.
I mean, there's so many ways, but I think just take all the definitions of happy and just shotgun out there. And I think that's what all parents want for their kids. You know, like I want my kids to feel self-fulfilled. I want them to
Mm,
feel, that they're safe. I want them to
mm,
feel that, they have opportunity and that, the people in their life loves them and are taking care of them. And, like everything that
mhm,
can I want them to eat good food and go fun places. Everything that, brings joy and comfort and is the
mm,
opposite of, strife and challenges and misery. Like that's what I
yeah,
want my kids to know I want my kids to know how to have that, whether
mm,
it be through their professional decisions or personal decisions, like
yeah,
their general outlook on life and the world that they live in.
yeah. Because happiness is such a
It could be anything. Like,
it's such a it could be anything. That's why I say define it. You kind of did. It's like safe,
yeah.
to have opportunity. You kind of started to give it shape of that's what Ryan means by I want my kids to be
Yeah.
happy. It's not just because happiness is such it's like in the eye of the beholder. It's like it can mean so many things, but for you, it's like safe, opportunity, all these things. It's you're giving it texture.
Mhm.
It's tangible now because happiness without texture is kind of untangible. It's like the more you aim at it, the more you miss it. It's like, well, what does it mean to be happy? What would I be doing? What would my kids be doing? And so one final question with that is what is one way that you are modeling
Mm.
that to your children now, today?
I mean, the top of the list for that is just my career choice. Like,
Hmm.
I honestly worry about that a little bit. Like, what are my kids gonna think about working? They watch their
Mhm.
dad get toys in the mail every day and get to, fiddle around with the guitar stuff when he's definitely not a professional musician, but somehow he made his career to get to do really fun things, like
Hmm.
get to chase a passion and turn it into a
Hmm.
job. And even if I wasn't doing this, I was doing graphic design before that. And that's the same thing, turning a passion
Yeah.
into a job. And I think that is probably my biggest positive influence on our kids and my wife's biggest positive influence on our kids as far as like kind of like crafting their future ideas about who they can be in the world. There's
Mm.
everything else that we do about teaching them manners and teaching them all the little other details, but I think seeing two parents that choose to make a living doing the tasks that they legitimately enjoy and would do as their hobbies, I think that
Mm.
will shape my kids in a really interesting way. Uh, Part of me worries that it will spoil them. Maybe they're destined to
Mm.
be blue collar, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't want them to think that they failed in life because they didn't like choose a
Yeah.
creative career path
Yeah.
or a career path that is more deeply fulfilling in some sort of
Sure.
way. Like the world needs everyone in every profession, and I don't want them to to think that whatever they do as a profession is
Mhm.
lesser or greater. They might think greater. They might think, oh, my parents were just a bunch of artists and I went on to
Mm.
become a doctor that works on lawyers that fly to space,
Yeah.
the most important professional in the world. Uh,
Yeah.
it could
Yeah.
go either way, but that's another layer to it is I want my kids to feel, happy and confident doing whatever they end up doing.
Right. Well, and I think I heard in there just loved in who they are, not
Right.
what they do.
Right.
I mean, I heard that totally, and that was pretty strong in there. Like, hey, I want to model to them, hey, try to pursue something you care about,
Yeah.
and regardless of what you choose, it's okay.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
love you. Yeah, that's
Like
good. I
plumbers
mean,
plumbers make great money. If one of my kids wants to be a plumber and, maybe it's not emotionally fulfilling. If it is, then maybe they need to talk to a counselor. But, what I mean? Like, I don't want there to be pressure, and I don't want there to
yeah,
but I also don't want there to be an expectation that like, "Oh, I'm not gonna work if I
mm,
can't find something that fulfills me." Like, everyone has to work,
yeah,
like, it's a practicality of life. I
yeah,
don't want them to be like, "Oh, I have to hold out for, something that's gonna fulfill my creative
hmm,
vision in life," when maybe that's not their path. I'm
yeah,
hoping to be able to instill the opposite of what most people probably try to instill, some sort of, like, realistic worldview of, you're going to have to work someday and it's not going to be fun. Because even if you do find your dream job, you have to work up to that. Like no one gets their dream job right out of the gate. I mean, sure, someone does, but like I did plenty of blue collar, minimum wage type stuff to get to the point where I could do the stuff that I love doing.
And you're modeling, like you said, you're modeling it, and that's your hope for them is to, hey, pursue what you love and pursue your version of happiness and how you model that in your day to day of passion and, opportunity and, all those things you said. And so what a wonderful gift to give to your kids and modeling health too, how you take care of yourself and, like, hey, prioritizing sleep and all those things. Like those are, what I found kids are sponges. They pick up the good, the bad, the ugly. And
then they
pick it
leak all over the
all up.
place.
And then they leak all over the place. Yeah. But yeah, Ryan, I appreciate you being on Therapy for Dads. And again, people follow 60 Cycle Hum. It's a great podcast, YouTube channel, everything. And Ryan, I just wish you the best tonight and blessings to your family.
Thank you.
And for some good sleep for you tonight. And we will talk soon and have to have you on a second time.
Of course.
All right.
Of course. Yeah, this has been great. Thanks for having me on.